Are you making one of these 12 fatal Etsy mistakes? Some of them will keep a beginner from ever making their first sale, while others might keep you from scaling your shop. Some of these are going to be for my super duper beginners, while 4, 5, 8, and 12 will apply more to everybody. The first 3 we're going to cover are mistakes that I myself made, and probably the first 50 designs I put together for my Etsy shop. If you're new here, hi, I'm simply Shawna. I used to be a 4th grade teacher. I opened an Etsy shop. I connected it with a print-on-demand company. That's a company that prints my items for me and ships them out. I have scaled my shop to a 6-figure profit business a year. Once my business started to scale, which just means grew very exponentially, very quickly, which you can do with an Etsy shop, I went ahead and quit that 4th grade teaching job so that I could work on my Etsy shop full time. And then I started a YouTube channel, and I'm teaching once again by sharing with you how I was able to make such a drastic change in my life. Let's jump into it. The first 3 are for my real newbies. Again, I was making these mistakes probably in at least the first 50 designs I put together for my print-on-demand Etsy shop. And you'll want to stick around till number 12 because I made every single one of these mistakes except for number 12. And number 12 is the only mistake that no one gets to make and still gets to have a successful Etsy shop. If you make mistake number 12, you definitely do not get to have a successful Etsy shop. Number 1, using fonts that are just hard to read. I'm using the design app here, GoDaddy Studios, to do an example for you. But when I first got started, I tried to be using different fonts, and I'm looking at all of these fonts like, oh, this cursive one is pretty, and I'll mix it with this one over here. And I just use random fonts, and they're going to look big and they're going to look very readable, maybe inside of your design app, because you're looking at the artboard in your design app and it's all blown up and it's all big. But once you download that image, your artwork, and you superimpose it on top of the picture of your mock-up, whether it be a tote bag or a picture of a t-shirt, whatever it is, and then you list that on Etsy, now that design isn't so big. It's not taking up your full artboard on your screen. It's on top of a little picture, a little thumbnail that's now in a sea of other pictures that your viewer or your potential buyer is looking at on their screen. Lots of different shops, options. Here I'm doing read books, be kind, stay weird. And that shopper is going to see my design along with every other seller's design. And if I don't have clear wording that is easy to read, big enough to read, then no one is going to click on my item because my competition has beautiful wording, beautiful fonts that they've chosen that are easy to read. So this would be appealing to someone who likes to read, possibly a reading teacher, or just someone who likes books. And if they cannot tell that, first of all, the design I just did, really the only word you could see is be kind. So that's not even targeting, those words aren't even targeting my customer. My customer is going to be that person that is either a reading teacher or someone who likes to read, once again. So the words that should be popping out of this design should be something about reading. So the design we just did on the left is going to be in competition with this bestseller here on the right. And my design really doesn't stand a chance here. So I haven't done any research for the fonts that I was using. I just randomly chose whatever, and we'll get into research in a later point that we'll make in this video. But the design on the right, the bestseller, that is a trending look. That font is a rounded retro look, and there's many bestsellers with that type of font on it. We all have to start somewhere, and my designs really did look a lot like that design we just put together. Probably my first 50, maybe my first 100 designs look like that. If you've been around for a while and you're a subscriber on the channel, you know that it took me 8-9 months to really grab some traction on Etsy. So if you didn't start out making junky designs like that, then hats off to you. We're really glad that you're starting out at a faster pace. Now, if you are a more seasoned seller and you did start out and you remember the days where you were putting designs like this together, and I know I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one because my sister-in-law is doing this with me and I have friends doing this with me. And, you know, kind of after I fuddled my way through this, I saw them making the same mistakes and kind of, you know, help them get on the right track. So maybe you could take a second, go down into the comments. Let us know if you did start out like that, or if you're doing that now, don't feel overwhelmed. Please don't feel overwhelmed at any point in this video. Knowledge is power. And knowing that you're making a mistake so that you could start to fix it, that's really what counts here, and being willing to fix it. I feel that I'm definitely proof that you can make all the mistakes and still grow your business to great places as long as you're consistent, persistent, and always trying to learn. Flashing 2 more examples of this with just print that is really hard to read, fonts that are really hard to read up on the screen. And these sellers are actually making a couple mistakes that we'll get to, but in this example, I'm pointing out the unreadable fonts. Mistake number 2 is laying out your text with too much space between the lines of text. So a lot of times when you start designing and you're new to this, you'll go in and you'll let the design app just create the amount of space. You'll press return or resize your image or your text, and you'll just let the design app put the amount of text that it wants. We can adjust the amount of space between the lines by either making a new text box with the new piece of text. And we could do that, you know, maybe we want to do that so that we can adjust the space, or maybe we want to change the font. My rule of thumb is no more than 2 fonts in my design. Every once in a while I'll use 3, but I definitely suggest for someone new to just use 2. And some fonts go together, sometimes they won't. You don't want to use 2 different cursives, so you might use a cursive and then a print. But it looks very unprofessional to just have this kind of strange amount of space between the 2 lines of text. So you can also go into your design app and you can shrink the amount of space between the lines of text. And the way that looks is different between the different design apps that you're using. Here I'm doing it on GoDaddy Studios, once again, because I was doing all of this on my phone, and that's my favorite design app for making designs on my actual phone. The design I wound up putting together wound up not being as bad of an example as I wanted it to be. But if you are putting your designs together and letting the design app decide how much space you are leaving between those 2 lines of text, you're more than likely going to want to start closing that space up a bit, because usually those designs are not going to look very professional. Number 3, and this is a newbie one, and then number 4 will be a little more for everybody. Number 3, make sure that you are downloading your artwork that you put together with a transparent background. Every once in a while I come across a shop that did not do that. They downloaded it and they put that image on top of their mock-up photo, and so it's got like a white background or a black background to it. And I actually came across a shop a couple months ago that had like 100 listings in there that they had just done this 100 times. And I do remember being frustrated when I first opened my shop trying to figure out how to get rid of that background. Usually you have to have a paid subscription with your design app. A lot of the design apps have paid subscriptions that once you have the paid subscription, you can remove the background. I do have a link to Kittl down in the description below. I often use that one. GoDaddy Studios, I don't have a link to them, but you can just Google them. They both, once you have the paid subscription to them, you can download your images with transparent backgrounds. Number 4, not having your stats toggled on. So when you go to your listing page in your Etsy shop, over to the right hand side, you're going to see at the very top a little spot that says stats. This is usually automatically turned off or toggled off. Toggle that on. All of your listings will then pop up with some extra information, and you'll be able to see the last 30 days, how many visits they got, how many favorites they got, and then you'll also see under that their stats for all time, how many sales they've had, how much revenue that they've had pass through them. Now on each of those listings, you'll be able to go down to the little gear like this little gear icon that's at the bottom right-hand corner of each individual listing. And when you click into that, you'll be able to go to the stats for that individual listing. And you'll get more information about exactly which search terms people are, seeing and clicking on for that particular listing. So that's great also, but at just a quick glance, if you have that little switch toggled on, again, it's your listing page at the top right-hand corner. You toggle that on, you could get a quick snapshot of which listings are starting to get views. And that helps you make decisions about what to double down on, which just means that if you're working in a couple of niches, if you've got one of those niches getting views while the others maybe aren't, well, start making more in that particular niche. Feed that little fire. Blow some flames on that little fire so you could get it going. And that's how you get an Etsy shop to scale, by constantly paying attention to what's going on in your Etsy shop and doubling down and doing more of that. And this is one of those ways to keep your finger on the pulse of your Etsy shop and making sure that you're paying attention to what's happening with your Etsy shop and what's getting traction so that you could feed those little flames. Number 5, the 5th mistake that you don't want to be making. And this is one that even people with 1,000, 2,000 sales, I see them continuing to make, and it really slows their ability to start scaling their shop. And that is really underestimating the power of market research. Now, market research, it ebbs and flows and sneaks into every little piece of your business, whether it be your SEO, your search engine optimization, title, and tags. You need to do market research on that. You need to be doing market research on the designing. Like in that first example from the beginning of the video, when I threw that design together with the phrase, I think it was just read, be kind, stay weird. I did absolutely no market research other than I knew that that phrase was on a bestseller. After that, you want to check uspto.gov, make sure it's not trademarked, which I did not do that with that phrase. So if you decide to do that for your shop, you're going to want to double check that. But after you know it's a safe phrase to use, but then you actually want to make sure that you're using fonts that are popular, a look that is popular, colors that are popular. You're going to want to use mock-ups that are in a look that it has lots of bestsellers. You want to read the market. You want to see what the market is responding to so that you could start practicing putting those things into your designs and into your listings. Market research is incredibly important. It was the piece that I thought was the scariest and the thing that took me the longest to start getting good at. Now, even though that took me the longest to start getting good at, I was still able to create a very profitable store, and with under a year, within less than a year, I was able to create a store that was making me several $1,000s a month. So do not feel intimidated by that. Just listen to as much content as you can about it. And with each piece of content, each video that you listen to that shares about this, that teaches you about this, you'll get just a little bit better. And that's all you need. You just need to get a little bit better, just a little bit better every day. And if you can do that, within a couple months, how much better are you going to be if you've got just a little bit better every single day after 30 days, after 60 days, after 90 days? I do have a whole playlist on the channel about market research, and I'll leave it linked down in the description below if you're looking to learn more about that. The 6th mistake you do not want to be making is using blah mockups. So in the example that I'm going to flash up right now, the person on the left used a mockup for a design they created that's very similar to the bestseller that we see on the right. And so now they're competing with a bestseller design that already has lots of reviews, already is ranked in the algorithm well. And now they don't even have a prettier mock-up than the original person that posted this and has a bestseller. It actually looks like they pushed this through from their print provider, their POD company, and pushed it through to Etsy with the mock-ups that print provider generated for them. This is a free way to get mock-ups, but it's also a way that you will wind up never selling your stuff. And it's definitely a mistake that I made as well. I did this same strategy. I had a similar design on a free mock-up, and it was not good. I didn't sell stuff as a result. So if you are doing this, you'll want to just go ahead and invest. Let yourself spend 15, 20 bucks and let yourself buy a couple of really nice mock-ups. Going back to that market research tip, do the market research, paying attention to mock-ups during this research session, and buy yourself some mock-ups that are getting bestseller badges. And that way you know you have a competitive mock-up and that one that the market is saying that they like. So if you have the right mock-up, the right design, and the right SEO, the right title and tags, you are gonna have a much better chance of selling your designs. Once upon a time, my shop did look a lot like the one that I am flashing up on the screen right now, but you want to keep in mind that you are competing against shops that are now, I'm showing you on the other side of the screen, on the right side. And you're not going to sell anything when in search results, your potential customers are seeing these beautiful mock-ups compared to your cheapo ones. Two things before we hit number 7. First, if you happen to see your shop being flashed up as a non-example, I did have anxiety over that because the last thing I would want to do is discourage anybody. My shop was making all of these mistakes, and yet I got it turned around, and it's a very successful shop now. So if someone happens across this video and they see one of their listings and they know that that's from their shop, please do not let that make you feel bad. Take the suggestions and run with it. You'll improve faster than I did because no one pointed this out to me. It took me a long time to get these things figured out. Second, if you are finding value from this video, then I'm gonna invite you to go down and boop the like button. That means a lot to me and it lets me know that you're enjoying this content, helps me make decisions about future content to create. Also, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe so YouTube knows to give you more content like this one. Number 7, you do not want to copy other sellers' designs. You want to add something valuable to the market. I'm not going to go into great detail here with this because I have an entire playlist on this and I talk about it a lot. I am going to link it down below if you want to check that out. If you feel like all of the ideas have been already thought of and you don't know how to add something different to the market, you're going to definitely want to check that out. It's a piece you have to get figured out. You want to do the market research, include the elements that the market is saying that it likes, but yours needs to be different enough to stand out. The 8th mistake you do not want to be making in your Etsy shop. You do not want to be using irrelevant keywords in your title and in your tags. So for example, a lot of times people will have a t-shirt for sale, but then in their title and in their tags, they're using the words tank top, the words mug, the words sweatshirt, even though they don't have tank tops or sweatshirts for sale in that listing. They don't have any pictures in that listing of those items. So when someone is searching for a sweatshirt or a mug or one of those products, they're going to scroll right by your t-shirt that's in your main mock-up image. If you're using the word custom, but nothing's customized about your design, again, those customers are going to scroll right by your listing. This is bad for your listing, very bad for your listing. You don't want to pop up for searches where the customer is most likely going to scroll right by you and ignore you, because that's going to be bad for the score that your listing winds up getting, the quality score that your listing winds up getting. Every listing gets a quality score, and that's based on the interactions from the customers. The Etsy algorithm is going, oh, they don't like this one, we're going to stop showing it. So you would like to avoid that. Just use tags that are relevant to your listing. So for a shirt, you might use the word gift. I wouldn't put tank top or sweatshirt in there unless I actually have mock-up photos of the sweatshirt that's available or the tank top that's available. Number 9, you don't want to go over to Creative Fabrica and just download a bunch of designs and list them just as is in your shop. Creative Fabrica is a wonderful website. I will go ahead and link them down in the description below. That link will give you 10 free downloads or 1 free month. And if you're like me and you're not a designer, I needed somewhere where I could go and get elements and designs that I could use. But I only use parts of those designs. And of course, going back to that market research part, I first do the market research and then I go to Creative Fabrica with a mission in mind to find things that are supporting the market research that I did. And I don't just list things as is. I want to make something special and valuable to the market. I don't want to just list something that anyone could go in Creative Fabrica and download and list. I did an interview with my friend Lynetta a couple months ago, and she was making this mistake, and she speaks about this. I'll leave that interview linked down below also. Number 10, and this one's more of a newbie one, you don't want to put your images on your mock-up or when you sync them with your print-on-demand company, you don't want to make them too tiny on your shirt. You also don't want to put them too low on your shirt. Really, when you're putting them on your shirt, I kind of like start them here. A lot of people will kind of put them kind of like mid, like here, and it's going to wrap around a woman's like bust, and it's going to look really weird. It's got to be kind of higher up. When in doubt, take a look at the best sellers. They've got it placed nicely. Make sure yours is placed nicely. When I'm syncing it with my print-on-demand company, I pretty much blow it up to take up the whole space. And again, I lift it closer to the neckline. I do not have it down starting the design here so that it's like on the belly. I have it starting on the chest. Number 11, you don't want to infringe on trademarked brands. So for example, you'll see a lot of Disney stuff on Etsy, but those shops get shut down all of the time and you can even get sued. So you do not want to put any singer's face or name or bands or sports teams or logos, and even less obvious things. I started out doing Jeep Girl stuff. So now all of those designs, I wear them, I love them, but I can't have any of this in my shop. And I had several hundred of these in my shop before I realized it, because I was listing like crazy and I got a whole bunch out over the course of like 2 months before I really started to realize, oh, I'm not allowed to put Jeep on a shirt and sell it. Number 12, and this is the one that I think gets the majority of people. The mistake that you want to make sure that you don't make, you don't want to give up too early. All of the mistakes in this video, I have made them. Every single one of them, except for this one. I did not give up too early. I encourage you not to give up too early either. It took me 9 months before I started making money in my Etsy shop. I had a whole lot of corrections to make as I went, but I was consistent, I was persistent, I leaned into it, and I'm so glad I did. So I really encourage you not to give up too early. If you are absolutely brand new to this business like I was, then that's okay. We can do this. If there is any business that we can go into without knowing anything about it, I think this is it. Because on YouTube, there's so much information and the skills you need really aren't that hard, and you kind of learn as you start making money anyways. So don't give up. You've got this. If you enjoyed this video, I personally picked out the video that's about to pop up to play next because I think you'll also enjoy that one. But don't click on that until after this tip from Tucker. Tucker, take it away.